Hey cat. Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. As always, I am Jonni Cooks, and today we'll be doing some recipes from this Minecraft unofficial cookbook. I skimmed through the book real fast and checked out a few recipes ahead of time, and a lot of the recipes are really simple, maybe a little bit too simple. Then I looked on the back and it said for ages 6 to 11, which makes sense because I think on average I can cook almost as well as any 6-year-old. Anyways, I chose a few recipes to make a complete meal, and if you enjoy the simplicity of it, maybe you'll buy it and check out the other recipes. It's definitely geared more towards kids, but it's a cookbook that has food recipes that adults with a child's palate like me will enjoy. For Alex's chocolate chunk cookies, I'm gonna run through the ingredients as usual to make sure we have everything. We have vanilla, semi-sweet and milk chocolate chunks. We have some salt, baking soda, sugar, all-purpose flour over here. Then we have brown sugar, eggs, and unsalted butter at room temperature. I have a standing mixer here, so it'll be easy for me. If you don't have a standing mixer, you can always mix by hand, or if you have an electric mixer, that works as well. First, I'm gonna put my soft butter into my mixing bowl, and then I'll measure out the rest of my ingredients. I have my brown sugar, my granulated sugar. I'm gonna have my 2 eggs cracked into a separate bowl. My dry ingredients, my flour, salt, and baking soda all go together in one bowl. And then the chocolate chunks go into a bowl together. I ended up only finding semi-sweet chocolate chunks and used chips for the milk chocolate. If you want to have chunks for the chocolate, you can always buy candy bars and cut them up. The only thing I haven't measured is the vanilla, and I'll do that in the middle of mixing the cookie dough. I'm just gonna get the butter started and cream it a little bit, and then I'll add the sugar and cream that together. I typically stop the mixer every once in a while to scrape the sides and the bottom so there isn't a layer of butter stuck to the bowl that doesn't get incorporated. Now that it looks nicely creamed, we're gonna add in our egg one at a time and making sure it's completely mixed in before adding the next one. After the eggs are completely mixed in, we're gonna add in our vanilla. Now we'll slowly add in our flour. I'm just going to add a little bit at a time because you don't want to add everything at once or else you'll have a blowout and there'll be flour everywhere. When everything is barely mixed all together, we're going to stop and scrape the sides and the bottom and manually make sure the flour gets incorporated without overmixing. Then we'll add in our chocolate and mix manually again because the mixer tends to break up the chocolate a bit, and I think the point of a chocolate chunk cookie is to have big chunks. The recipe says to chill it in the bowl covered with plastic wrap, but I'm going to scoop them out first and then refrigerate because that'll make it a lot easier in the end. I'll scoop what I need on the silicone lined baking sheet. If you don't have a silicone mat, parchment paper is always a good substitute. The rest of the cookies will be scooped out on a separate sheet tray or container so I can pull them out of the fridge and bake them right away whenever I have a cookie craving. Depending on how big you want your cookie, you can use different sized ice cream scoops or a spoon. If you really want them to be consistent, you can always weigh them out. Now that I have the cookies I want to bake scooped out, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out and throw it in the fridge for an hour. Through the magic of video editing, these cookies have been in the fridge for about an hour. I'm just going to remove the plastic wrap and throw them in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 9 minutes. And here they are, fully baked. They might look a little bit puffy now, but once I remove them from this tray and onto a cooling rack, they should flatten a bit. Next, we're gonna make some ghasts, and it's a super simple recipe, and it feels more like an arts and craft project than cooking. The ingredients are pretty simple. We'll just need some pretzel sticks, some black decorating icing, you can buy this pre-made or you can make your own, some large marshmallows, and some white chocolate. The only thing that needs to be measured out is 2 ounces of white chocolate, but honestly I think that's more than I'll need. But I'll follow the recipe as is. To melt the chocolate, I'm just going to throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds to start off with, and then I'm going to keep checking every 20-ish seconds until it gets completely melted. Our black decorating icing tip is a little bit too big, so I'll just make a paper cone so it's easier to do the finer details. To do that, I'm just going to cut some parchment paper into a triangle. I think about 1 foot in length is fine. To cut my parchment triangle, I'm going to use my offset spatula by running it along the inside of the crease. You can also use some scissors or a knife if you'd like, but I prefer something with a blunt edge so I can get cleaner lines. The other half of my triangle parchment is just going to be used for my pretzels and chocolate. We're just going to dip the pretzel about 1/4 way into the chocolate and let it sit on the parchment to harden. So while the white chocolate on the pretzel sticks are cooling down and hardening, I'm going to make a pepper cone. These steps are completely my own, but it was the only way I know of where I could comfortably draw the faces on the ghasts. If you happen to find black decorating icing where the tip is perfectly fine, I would suggest doing that so it's a lot faster. First you'll want the triangle to point towards you, then you'll take the right side of the triangle and you'll fold it in like this into a shape of a cone, then you'll hold it there with your hand. Then you'll take your other hand and bring on the other tip over, and then you'll bring it under the cone. Then with that same hand you brought it over with, you're just going to pull that tip up towards the top of the cone and it should tighten up. After you've pulled your left hand all the way up to tighten up the cone, you're going to take the tip in your right hand, increase it backwards, and push it into the pocket. Then when you have the right tip in the pocket, you're going to take your left hand and crease it forward, and there should be a pocket on the inside you can stuff it into. And there you have a completed paper cone. You can take some scissors and snip the tip to make a hole in whatever size you'd like. I'm just going to put some of the frosting in here and scrunch up the empty space in the bag so I can push it out comfortably, and then I'll snip the tip. You should be able to make nice thin lines with this tiny parchment cone. Now with everything ready, we'll start assembling our ghasts. The only instructions were to just jam the pretzels in there, bare pretzel side in, so I did. It wanted 6 pretzel legs in there, but I could only comfortably jam in 4. I also had to break the pretzel ends a little bit to make sure they weren't super tall. I had a few problems with the first one, as you can see. It won't really stand, but that's okay, we'll just pretend it is. The last thing for these ghasts is to draw on the face, and you just need 3 nice lines, giving it an annoyed, expressionless face. Honestly, it kinda looks like me. Now we'll get started on the stuffed brown mushrooms, and I have everything I need here. I have fresh spinach, olive oil, garlic, mozzarella and Parmesan cheese, some cremini mushrooms, and Italian breadcrumbs. Cremini mushrooms are also sometimes labeled as baby portobello or baby bella mushrooms. The first thing I'm going to do is wipe the mushrooms with some damp paper towels to clean them off a bit. Soaking them in water tends to waterlog them, and I think it makes the mushrooms a bit soggy when you cook them. After they've been wiped, we're just going to take the stems out and set them aside. So here we have our mushrooms cleaned and stemmed, and we'll move on to the next step. We'll take our stems and give them a bit of a chop. The smaller they are, the better, but I wouldn't spend too much time making it perfect. Then we'll smash and peel our garlic, then chop it up as fine as you can get it. When it's all chopped up, I'm just going to set it aside. All that's left for our prep for the stuffed mushrooms is to wash and dry the spinach, and we'll get it to the stove. So with the spinach, you just want to snap off the stems here and just throw it in. We're just going to cook the spinach on a medium heat for about 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how long it takes for it to wilt. When it's finished cooking, we're just going to move it into a colander and strain it for a little while it cools. After the spinach has been cooling for a few minutes, we're going to squeeze out as much liquid as we can with our hands. As you can see here, there's quite a bit of liquid in them. When you're happy with how much liquid you've removed, you'll just take it and give it a quick run through with your knife, and then we'll return it to the colander to let it drain a little more while we prepare the rest of the ingredients on the stove. We'll just add a tablespoon of oil into our preheated pan on medium and let that get warmed up. Then we'll add our minced garlic and saute it for about a minute. After that, we'll add the chopped mushroom stems and cook that for about 3 minutes until they're nice and soft. Now that everything has been prepared, we're just going to add the rest of the ingredients to this hot pan. Our spinach, and then our cheeses and breadcrumbs. Then we're just going to mix everything together. Even though I mixed everything together in this hot pan, the cheese didn't really melt, but I just assumed that it's going to melt when it bakes in the oven. With everything mixed together, I'm just going to put spoonfuls of the filling into the mushroom caps. Then I'll set them aside on this lined baking sheet about an inch apart. Then they go into a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes, or until they're brown and crispy on top. And here are the stuffed brown mushrooms. The last thing we'll do today is our golden nuggets. We have our flour, our egg, Italian breadcrumbs, some olive oil, our chicken breast, and then we have onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, and some salt and pepper. The first thing we'll do is put our flour into a shallow bowl and season it with some salt and pepper. Then we're going to mix it up and set it aside. Then in another shallow bowl, we're just going to crack our egg in and whisk it up, and then we'll set it aside. In our last bowl, we're just going to mix up our Italian breadcrumbs, garlic and onion powder, oregano, salt and pepper, and then also set that aside. For the chicken breast, we're just going to cut it into nugget size, about 1.5 inch thick pieces. First I cut the chicken into strips, and then I cut it into cubes. After the chicken has all been sliced up, we're just going to move all of our bowls next to the stove and preheat our pan on medium. While our pan is heating up, we're just going to dredge our nuggets into the flour with one hand, and then dip it in the egg with the other. Then we'll switch our hand again when we move it over to the breadcrumbs. We're just going to repeat this process until all of our nuggets are breaded. With all of our nuggets breaded, we're going to add the oil to the pan and let it heat up for a bit. When the oil is hot enough, we're going to add in our nuggets and cook them for about 3 minutes on each side or until it's fully cooked. If you're unsure whether or not they're completely cooked on the inside, please use a thermometer and make sure they hit 165 degrees in the middle. I know I've mentioned this before, but getting food poisoning is absolutely terrible. We're on our last batch here, and when it's finished, we'll be ready to serve our Minecraft themed dinner. And finally, here we have our gold nuggets, we have our stuffed brown mushrooms, Alex's chocolate chunk cookies, and our Marshmallow Ghasts.
Those pretzels,
Marshmallow
and chocolate.
That's the appetizer.
Hey, look.
Just look like a candy cotton a little bit.
Yeah, so you can pull off the legs. I killed them.
That one smells so good.
For the appetizer, we have a stuffed brown mushroom.
Let's try these mushrooms. Cut it in half.
Smells very good.
Cut it in half.
It's a tasty mushroom.
Yep. I'm gonna have one more. Pretty good.
Look like a creamy spinach. One more piece of mushroom.
Yeah, mushrooms are good. I can eat these all day. Minecraft gold nuggets.
What is it?
Chicken?
Oh, chicken nugget.
Let's cut that in half.
It's a bag, isn't it?
pan fried.
Oh, that's
Slow.
okay. No, if
Slow.
you put in deep in the sauce.
So overall, how do you feel this Minecraft cookbook rates?
This is okay. I agree. Just need some little salt and peppers. But chicken overall pretty good. Mushrooms are actually pretty good.
Yeah, the mushroom is
Mushrooms
good.
pretty good.
Moisture.
Yeah.
Chicken too. Chicken
I
soft.
say mushrooms A plus, chicken B minus. This is 100% though.
Chicken is number one.
No, mushrooms are number one.
Oh, yeah, mushroom is number one. Chicken is okay. No, Kyla.
We actually have one more thing. We have what we call Alex's chocolate chunk cookies.
Okay.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Super dessert.
Oh, that's the dessert.
Some big chocolate chips in here.
Yeah, if you want one too.
Oh, smells very good. Top in the middle and corn around the edge.
Sweet. Grade A meal. Yeah, salt in the chickens, but the mushrooms are pretty good actually. Came out pretty good. Not too dry, not too moist. But yeah, flavoring's pretty good. I like hot sauce, so probably some hot sauce. Can I ask for some hot sauce?
Ăn rất là mostly là I can eat chocolate too, but not so much. Okay, that's enough for me.
Overall, the recipes weren't too bad. There's definitely room for anyone who decides to cook these recipes to zhuzh it up a little bit. But for a cookbook aimed at kids aged 6 to 11, it's not a bad starting place, and I would definitely recommend it to people in that age group or even skill level. Christmas is next week, so I'll most likely be doing another holiday-themed meal. Thanks for stopping by this week, and I hope you come back next time to see what seasonal goodies I'll have. Until then, I hope everyone enjoys their week.